Okay, we're ready to go.
Hello!
It's the Mohican. No.
Mohican sun. Well, that's like 2 hours away, honey.
Listen, that's a far drive.
You better sit up front,
Yeah, I wish I could. Right on your lap.
It's a long, lonely highway when you're...
So, Randy, I want to talk about the new song, the new anthemic song that will be released on July 2nd.
Yes.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Not that much to say. It's a little ditty. It's a little pop ditty that I haven't done anything like that in years. That I kind of woke up in the middle of the night and had this little kind of hooky idea and sang it into my little phone next to my bed and got up in the morning and went outside in my studio and wrote it down. And I said, hey, this thing is fun. And then I did it. That's it. I mean, there's no deep story. It's not a very, it's kind of a serious subject, but done in a very fun way, you know. So that's it.
Well, you didn't even tell us what it was about.
Well, I thought you were telling me. Oh, okay. The name of it should be, like I told you, hang your hat, put your best suit on. That should be the title. But it's not, because it's called Coming Out the Other Side, just about when we're all vaccinated and we can go out, it's going to be great, we're going to have a great time. That's basically what it's about.
I actually like that title.
What, the grab your hat?
Yeah.
No, I like the other one.
But now I'm going to tell you a funny story. Since you're asking me, you want to go back to the year 1 or 1892. Okay?
I was born.
I'm going to talk about song titles.
Yes.
Okay. Way back in the year 1, when I wrote a song, I took it to the person that was the publisher, and
Don't mind the red light. Go ahead.
no, yeah, great, nice driving. Live dangerously, and they said, "Oh, you can't." It is a ridiculous title that you have. First of all, it's not anything about that. It's not in the song really. So you got to call the song "When Will I Hold You Again?" Of course, it was Weekend New England. And I kind of really stuck to my guns. I liked the title. And even though it was in the song maybe once, one line. And then the guy who was the publisher told me this story about a friend of his who wrote a song called In Other Words. Do you know that song?
No, that one I don't.
Okay.
But we can-
Well, he called it In Other Words. And then years later, he didn't get his royalties. The opening line of the song goes, "Fly Me to the Moon."
Oh.
And he wanted to call it "Fly Me to the Moon," but they said no. It's called In Other Words, blah, blah. And then, so the guy related this story and told me how and by the way, this is before Barry Manilow recorded it. So it was going to be just one of a billion songs that no one was going to know. But he did focus in on it. Luckily, at the time, there was a R&B record out by a group called the 3 Degrees called "When Will I See You Again?" So I was able to use that and say, I can't call it "When Will I Hold You Again?" It's too much like that. So we called it Weekend New England, and then it became a huge hit.
Wow. That's fascinating.
That's it. That's a story most people won't get.
Wow.
Because most people do not go back to 1860.
Ike does.
I do, yes.
He had a nip and tuck.
That's
get
that.
it.
How did you transition into movies?
We need days.
Okay, excuse me. This is a John
No, I
Valesco
didn't.
question.
No, okay, no.
He said,
Oh,
make sure you
no,
ask him.
No. I didn't. First of all, I have been doing things, musical things, and that has to do with, you don't transition into movies because there are no gigs. There are like a small amount of people on the globe that do it. If you live in Hollywood and your kid goes to school, you'll find out 3 or 4 of the parents in the class are film composers. But nowhere else in the world will you find that kind of thing. It had to do with my musical background, and after I started playing on Broadway, conducting for singers, blah, 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 then I made records, but I went to you asked the question, when I went out, funnily enough, they took the first time anybody took some pictures out on the old MGM lot in Culver City for my first album, I went into, they had a big scoring session, and it was Elmer Bernstein, great Elmer Bernstein, and he was conducting a score, and I found it wasn't, of course the music was great, but it was how was he matching the music to the film? And at that time there were no computers, technology, and there was something called a click track. Anyway, I was interested in the mathematics of it, and so I got involved, and then I found out there was some guy to kind of study with, and I learned about that from, it was almost like, it was called a click book, but it was a really not an old-fashioned way of doing it. That's how everybody had done it for years, because there wasn't any click tracker or computer to lock to. So I found it very interesting, and I did the first Kennedy assassination film, which you probably don't know. Fantastic movie if you ever get a chance, called Executive Action, with Burt Lancaster and Robert Ryan, and screenplay written by Dalton Trumbo, who had been blacklisted. It was quickly taken out of the theaters because it was too, and no one heard about it. I mean, they heard about it, it's there on record. But it was kind of an interesting but scary experience, and I learned that writing music for films is serious shit, very pressured. I lost lots of weight, and I got very nervous, and after a few other things, I decided, including doing that TV film for Tony Thomas, this is one before Golden Girls, I decided to, you know what, at that time the whole singing songwriting thing was going on. I said, I think I'm going to continue doing this because this other thing is serious. Writing a 3-4 minute song, you know. Right. So I did that for years before something happened, and you always need something to happen if you're going to, not only you have to be able to do it, but you need a little twist to get you into, quote, serious film scoring. You need to do a film with a serious director, and it doesn't have to be a, quote, serious film. It can be a comedy, but you need a little break there.
So how come when's the last time you scored a film?
I finished it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
You know, scoring a film now versus the past, everything with technology and everything, is it easier?
Well, the technology has come around. It's like 10 years ago. This right. 20. It's come around. It's some aspects are good, like locking up scenes. Like once you lock up and you set the thing and your tempo is set, you can't make a mistake because you've set the computer, and bar where somebody hits somebody over the head is always the second beat of bar 49 because you're all set. And when you change tempo, you can't miss. That's changed. The problem is, though, when these directors come over, which they do, and bother you, they're used to people, you know, quote, mocking up the cues. Because now, you know, everything sounds pretty good. So I can make it sound like a symphony orchestra or an R&B group or a rap, anything. So they get used to wanting to hear something, and then it may not be like it's going to be when you really record it. And that's the problem with the technology. Because years ago, can you imagine these composers, these great guys, they had a piano and a moviola and all. How did they write all these great songs? Well, they did. But these guys couldn't come over and fuck with them because they couldn't hear it until they went on the scoring stage with a big orchestra at one of the studios. So that's the thing.
I love, like, Dionne Warwick. I know you've worked with her. I love Barbra Streisand, but I loved when they worked with the orchestra and every instrument was in front of them, and now I feel like something's missing when you're listening to you know.
Well, that's all right. That's all changing. Rarely do you see orchestras at all. I do because of some of the big scores, right. the you know, ones that can afford it. Because and I do most of that stuff. I do in London at Abbey Road or Lyndhurst, but not as cool as my story now with my score to Ghostbusters 2, which is being released by Sony Classics in a couple of weeks, 32 years later. First time.
Awesome.
And you say, why? And there's a story there too, but I'm not going to give away.
What
No.
more, please?
You're only going to have to tell me about it sooner or later, so might as well be.
No, it's okay. So I'm starting out. I meet this guy, Ivan Reitman. I do Twins, Kindergarten Cop, all these big comedies. And then they're doing the sequel to the biggest comedy of all time that he produced and directed called Ghostbusters. But it was like maybe 5 or 6 years later, because all the people in it, and the sequel was all the same writers, actors, they wanted too much money. So that's what happens with these things when you want to make a sequel. Most of them don't get made. So it took them all that time. Then I came upon the scene. He had a fight with Elmer Bernstein. And so he asked me to score it, which I did. But you can imagine by that time, every black artist in the world wanted to write the, quote, new Ghostbusters song.
Yeah.
So you had everybody, and in 5 or 6 years, it wasn't going to be a Ghostbusters. It was just going to be a song. So, and these were not, people would submit songs. They would submit finished records, you know. So they had like 50 finished records of everybody. You name it, there's nobody not on the list in that ilk, you know. Anyway, meanwhile, it was a big thing for me, so I did the score, and 99.9% of the music. And the sequel was really good, and it was a big hit. It's all my music. So let's say they picked, let's say 6 or 7 songs out of the 50, and of course, where are they? They're in the end credit after the film is over. They used the old Ghostbusters song maybe for a minute somewhere in the movie. So the thing comes out, and the soundtrack comes out. And what is the soundtrack, of course? Because they had all those heavy record companies that spent, it's just songs. And at the time, I wasn't, you know, I didn't have any power, and I was just happy that I did it. I got through it. It all was my music. So I didn't say, hey, that's bullshit. You know, that's not the soundtrack. That's like the songs. So I never did anything, and then over the years I would get calls. But it was a very big, huge orchestra and lots of sessions, and there was a big, what they call in the union, a reuse fee. When musicians play on a film and then they release the soundtrack, they have to be paid all over again because it's another use. So it was kind of complicated. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Now there's a new film coming out that Ivan's son directed, I guess, that's been delayed because of the COVID. Anyway, so they called me up, say, we're finally doing this. Guess what? They go into Warner Brothers. Can't find. This is a huge score to a huge movie. They've misplaced 50% of my cues.
The master tape?
Yeah. No. Yes. They've misplaced. It was all sent here to this guy in New York, this guy that does all the work for Sony Classical, or the Masterworks. And I said, well, they sent me like 25, 30 minutes of music. I said, there's like over an hour of music. They could not find it. It's ridiculous. Huge movie. Huge orchestra done right there. It was all union. And so you know what I did finally? This was months and months ago. I actually went in by myself, and I took some of the themes of stuff that I remember wasn't on the cues that they found, and I did I'd say I did 4 cuts totally myself, and put it together, and they love it. It's coming. So it's that was '89. That movie came out, and it's 2021, and they are really doing. They're doing a whole number, you know, because there's this whole soundtrack kind of thing, especially in Europe. It's a real, you know, area that people.
So I really, really, really wanted to meet you.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And Eileen mentioned that,
You should write
you know,
a book.
if we had a piano, you would play something, and we actually have one.
And we were wondering, did you ever play on something like that?
I can do it.
You can. Oh,
I knew it.
Yes.
I knew it.
I can't tell you how.
Let me
good
just test it for see what. Oh, that's a real piano. Okay. So you like Weekend New England? Let me see. See, but unfortunately, you don't have the range.
Right.
But I can do it. Okay. I'll do one. Oh, It doesn't play 2 notes at once. I'm trying to play.
Come on, Ike. Why'd you steal my grandson's piano? I told you to get the other one.
It doesn't.
I couldn't fit the grand in here.
I can't do it.
Oh,
Or maybe we do
yes.
a 1, 2, 3.
Oh my God!
I can't
got
do
it.
The S. I heard a little bit of it.
Ba.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to know.
I hear it though. I hear it.
That's fab.
I'm sorry.
is
All right, now
fab.
play the new song.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. I got those few. I felt it, so I'm good.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to pee soon.